Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we're Masechtas Nazir daf Mem Zayin. We are going to begin on the very top of Mem Zayin Amud Aleph by the new Mishnah Masnisan. Mishin Nizrak Olav Echad Min Hadomim V'Nitma. So you have a person that brought as a Nazir, he finished 30 days, and he brings out of the three karbanos one of them completely, did the Zrika, and then he becomes Tameh. So on this, Rabbi Eliezer Oimer Seisas Akol. It's completely uprooted. Now, why does Rabbi Eliezer say this? So Tosfos tells us that this is Rabbi Eliezer with Taimei, according to his reasoning, that he said before that Achar Hamasim Kulam Mutul Lishtos Yain. You're only allowed to drink wine, which means you're not a Nazir, when everything is done. The bringing of the karbanos, all three of them, the shaving, the tenufa, everything. And therefore, since only one of them was done, so you're still a Nazir. And because of that, if you became Tummy, so it's Seiser Sakol. Now, does it really mean everything? So Tosfos tells us that really Nitma Le'achar Malois Seiser Zayin. That if, let's say, you became Tummy only after you finished the days of the Nazirus, it's not that you have to recount all 30, but it's just the 7 days. El Seiser Karbanos Kaimar. All it means is that you have to bring all three karbanos again when you become tahar. However, Chachamim Ormim says the Mishnah, Yavi Shar Karbanos of Yitar. Bring the other karbanos and you're pure. Now, on this, Tosfos explains you can't bring the karbanos now, but rather perish likishi yitar. When you become tahar, then you can bring the karbanos. The tahar of yachachach yavi karbanos. Of course, that has to be the order. Then Rabban Tamayhu. The Rabban go according to their reasoning. The Amri achar ma'isi yachidi mutu shas yayin. Umegalei acharihu kaidim shenitma royalus galachas. So all you need to do is a ma'asi yachidi, one action, and that's enough. That at that point you can now drink wine. And therefore, since you did bring one carbon and the Zrika was done on this one carbon, that already is enough, and therefore it's not going to be Seiser. You don't have to be, it's not Seiser. Now, the truth is, according to Rabbi Eliezer, we said it's Seiser 7 days, and this person is Tameh, so how can he bring karbanos if he's Tameh? So this, Tosfos says, V'achakach kishiyitar v'yelo hazas Gimel v'Zayin Yavim Leminian Stira. So it's interesting, the machlokas is on the carbon that was brought, whether that counts or needs to be rebrought. But everyone holds that, of course, you have to do the 7 days. Like any person who's Tameh Mace, you have to do the Paraduma and be sprinkled on days 3 and 7. So therefore, the whole machlokas is whether or not the one carbon that you brought before you became tar, whether that has to be rebrought. And on this, the Chachamim bring a story. Masa b'Miriam hatar mudis shenizrak aleha echad min hadamim, just like the case of our Mishnah, that it was sprinkled and brought one carbon. Uvavi oimru laha, it was told to her albita shahaisim sukenas. She found out that her daughter was sick, so she went to visit her daughter while she was alive. Hopefully, that's what would happen. However, when she got there, she saw her daughter was dead, and which means she became Tameh Mace. Now, once she brings the karbanos, after she becomes tahar, that's good enough. In other words, the one carbon that she brought is good. We don't require anything else, namely, you don't have to bring another carbon. You don't have to redo the first carbon that you did. Says the Gemara, Katani, Rabbi Eliezer, Messiah Sakol, so we already know this, but according to the, up until now, just push it reading the Mishnah, it sounds like you have to redo all 30 days of being a Nazir. Yomi Rabbi Eliezer call Achar Maloi Shiva Seiser. That if the days of Nazirus were finished, it's only 7 days Seiser. So Marav says, of course you're right. So my Seiser now become Rabbi Eliezer Seiser Kabbanaisav. It just means they have to bring all three karbanos again. The one carbon that you already brought, you have to do it again. Hakadam Mastabra, and this is logical, says the Mefarish. That's going on the karbanos. Because he says, bring the other karbanos in your tahar. The first carbon that was brought before you became tamei, that also doesn't work. So that's the whole machlokas is on this first carbon. So that is what's hachanam stabra. That's what's the logic. How do we see that? So again, that's the raya that all you need to do is bring the other karbanos, which is mashma, the whole machlokes is on the first carbon, but not whether or not it's saiser sakoil. Not literally do you have to do all 30 days over. Masanam ben Miriam hatarmudis, this is the story. Shenizar kol echem nadamim uval v'hoidihu al bita. She was informed regarding her daughter Shahais Mesukenes. She heard her daughter was sick, so she went to visit her. The Holchel Matzah Shemason, she found her daughter dead, which means she became Tami Mace. So we see clearly the reason why they bring this story is just to illustrate the point that the first carbon, according to Chachamim, does not need to be rebrought. We're now going to continue with the 7th parak now. Kohen Gadol of a Nazir. So you have these two people, Kohen Gadol, as well as a Nazir. Ein matamin l'kroivoisein. So l'kroivehen. We mentioned this before. Unlike a Kohen Hedget, a Kohen Gadol is not allowed to become tamei even for among his 7 relatives. And that's the same thing when it comes to a Nazir. Nazir is not allowed to become tamei mace, and that includes even his relatives. Avol matamin leis mitzvah. And we'll discuss how we know this. But a Nazir is allowed to become Tami as well as a Kohen Gadol for a Mace Mitzvah. Let's say they're traveling. A Mace Mitzvah. They have these two guys that are walking and they see a Mace Mitzvah. Now, again, for a Mace Mitzvah, they're allowed to do it, but you don't need both of them to become Tami. So Rabbi Eliezer Omer Yitma Kohen Gadol. Let the Kohen Gadol become Tami by burying the Mace Mitzvah. Yitami Nazir, not the Nazir. Chachamim Armin, they disagree and say the other way around. Yitami Nazir v'al Kohen Hedget, that the Nazir should become Tameh, and not only if it's a Kohen Gadol, but even a Kohen Hedget should not become Tameh. So Amalahen, Rabbi Eliezer. So this Rabbi Eliezer says, Yitama Kohen Shein maybe carbon al tu masai. V'al Yitama Nazir shu maybe carbon al tu masai. If a Kohen becomes Tameh, there's no din of bringing a carbon. However, when it comes to a Nazir, as we've discussed, there's carbon for a Nazir who's Tameh. So therefore, that's more problematic. So better the Kohen or the Kohen Gadol become Tameh. Amrulo, no. Yitma Nazir shein kedushasu kedushas oilam, no yitama Kohen she kedusha kedushas oilam. You would say the opposite. Kohen is always kadosh, so therefore he should always retain his kedusha. He obviously has a higher level of kedusha. It's never removed. And a Nazir, his kedusha is only for the stipulated amount of time that he's a Nazir. Okay, question 9. Masvar the Nazir Kohen Yitma Nazir v'loy Kohen. Masvar the Kohen Balmum. Okay, so that is the straight Mishnah that a Nazir and a Kohen. So Yitma Nazir, because a Nazir is not Tami Oilamus. He's not forever. His kedusha is not kedushas oilam. A Kohen is kedushas oilam. TB 23. He says Kohen Gadol v'Nazir shayim hach v'derech matzu meis mitzvah mi. Mehen Yitma Madua. So again, it's based on this Mishnah. There's machlokas whether or not it is because we look at the Kedusha's Oilamis, so therefore let the Nazir become Tameh. Or do we say, no, the Kohen should become Tameh because he has not to bring a carbon for becoming Tameh? Says the Gemara. Now, Bishlam Kohen Gadol of a Nazir, I can understand. In the case where you have a Kohen Gadol against a Nazir, Hai Savar Kohen Gadol Adif, Hai Savar Nazir Adif. There's reason to say that each one has some strength. So on this, the Gemara asks, Mashuach b'shemen hamishcha. When you have someone who is anointed with shemen hamishcha, in which the Taisa says, as opposed to Meruba Gadim, Kari mishenignas shemen hamishcha, dishiyahu ganas shemen hamishcha. We know that the anointing oil that was in the times of Moshe Rabbeinu, the Gemara in Masechtas Yoma, Tosfos brings down, Yeshayahu hid it, so it is no longer used for the anointing of a Kohen Gadol. So while before the time of Yeshayahu, when we actually had it, we called the person a Meshuach B'Shemen, Meshuach B'Shemen Mishcha, as opposed to Mem Zayin Bebeis, Amruba Begadim. It's the same thing as a Kohen Gadol, but the only thing that distinguishes him from the Kohen Hedget is that instead of having 4 garments, he has 8 garments. He wears the big Zahav. However, the truth is, he's not anointed. So what happens when you have these two people? So we say, Mashuach B'Shemen Mishcha Adif. the one who is anointed is better. So he should not become tamei. Someone who's Mashuach B'Shem Mishcha is maybe par Habal Kol Mitzvos. When he becomes under certain circumstances, he's required to actually bring a par, a cow. The Il Merubah Begadim Ein Mevi. However, when it comes to him, he does not bring a par. If you look in the Mefarsh, De'ihu Adif Shekain maybe par Helam Al Kol Mitzvos. Kamot Sibor Kedechsev Im HaKohen Mashiach Koloimer Shehu maybe carbon al Ashmato. That when he does something which is of guilt, he has to bring this carbon. Kamot Sibor al Ashmatan, just like it's Sibor. Al Merubah Begadim Enudino Elo Kiyachid. When it comes to a Merubah Begadim, when he sins, he has the same status as a Yachid. He doesn't bring a special carbon of a par, rather he brings a kisva. So because of he's just like a regular guy, so therefore the Merubah Begadim should be the one who becomes Tamei Meis. How about a Meshuach Sha'avar and Merubah Begadim? So we know Meshuach B'Shem and Mishcha is more important. However, what if you have the Meshuach Sha'avar, which again took place before the oil was hidden, and let's say, for example, he became a Balkari, and they appointed someone else instead of him temporarily to act as the Kohen Gadol, and afterwards, when he became Tahar, the Kohen Gadol will go back to his avoda. So that is considered to be that Kohen is called an over. He was passed over. Merubah Begadim. So which one is better? So he said Merubah Begadim Adif. The Merubah Begadim of an avoda. While you're a Merubah Begadim, you're still the acting Kohen Gadol, and therefore, since you're doing the avoda, so therefore you're more chashiv. V'il Meshuach Sha'avar Lav Bar Avodahu. However, Meshuach Sha'avar is not a bar avoda. Says the Mefarsh El Oso Yom Hakipurim Rishon Chayzil Avoda. So V'Sheni Inu Roy Lo Kohen Gadol Lo Kohen Hedget Mishum Demal Mekadosh Mo Meridin. So therefore, we look at the one who is doing the avoda, and therefore the Merubah Begadim is greater. However, how about Avar Machmas Kirya Avar Machmas Mumo? So both of them are Kohanim that were removed, but one is because he was a Balkari, and one of them is because he has a Mum. So Avar Machmas Kirya Adif, he's better. Dilu Hai Chazil Avodol Machar, because this Balkari eventually he's going to become Tahar after he goes through the purification process. Vilu Avar Machmas Muma Luchazli Avoda. However, when it comes to a Kohen who is a Mum, that's something in which is for a while. So in this question 9, Masvar de Kohen Bal Mum Oiver, the Kohen Balkari Yitma Bal Mum Velo Balkari. Now, again, why should the Baal Mum become Tameh? Because the Baal Mum is someone who's not going to be Chazil until he's healed, which could take a long time. As opposed to a Balkari, he'll be Tahar tomorrow. So on this thing, we're asking a question. Iboilhu, Mashuach Milchama, the Sagan. What if now you have, on one hand, the Mashuach Milchama, who was anointed, and he does the Avoda, and you have the Sagan Kohen, which is like the deputy Kohen. Gadol. Haminayu Adif. Which one is more chashiv? So Mashuach Milchama Adif. Should we say that the Mashuach Milchama is Adif, the Chazil Milchama? Because since he's Mashuach Milchama in the war, so he's fit to engage in helping people during the time of war, to give them words of chizuk. The Sagan is fit to do the avoda. He's like waiting in the wings. So maybe he's more important. What's more important, to be chazi for the milchama or chazi for avoda? So Tashma the Sanya. Ein bein Mashuach milchama with Sagan. There's no difference between these two kohanim gedolim. El sheim ha'yim mahalchim derech. It says beferish, if they're both traveling on the road, allow the person who's Mashuach Milchama to get Tameh, the Al Yitam and Sagan. So we see clearly that what's more important is the fact that he's going to be doing the Avoda. In fact, the Gemara, what do you mean? It's mentioned that the Mashuach Milchama comes first. So Amar Zutru, it depends. When it comes to life, matters of life and death, so the Mashuach Milchama is more important because he's involved in this conversation with soldiers who are about to die or who are fighting. So therefore his life is very, very valuable because he's saving lives and he's giving words of encouragement. So when it comes to life, so he certainly is more choshev. However, my timer, the Tolbe Rabbi, many people are literally hanging on him for inspiration. In Tuma Sagan Adav, but because he himself is fit to do the avoda, so therefore he's more choshev, and therefore we would actually have him not become tameh. The sign Rabbi Chananya ben Antigonus Oimer, Lama Tiknu Sagan L'Kohen Gadol. What's the whole purpose of having this guy waiting in the wings as a Sagan? Shim Iruba Psul, that if let's say the Kohen Gadol himself has a Psul, Har Nichnas Mishamish Tachtav, he'll just jump right instead, like as an understudy, he'll immediately do his bidding. So Ad Kan Lo Pligi El B'Kohen Gadol v'Nazir. The whole machlokus was with regard to Kohen Gadol and Nazir. Who comes first? Ki Ka'azli B'Hadei Adadi, when they're traveling. Avul Chad L'Chudei Bar Itmuye Inun. Clearly, the whole question is who comes first. But if let's say they're by themselves, then either of them should be stepping up and dealing with the Meis Mitzvah. So how do we know that when it comes to a Nazir, how do we know when it comes to a Kohen Gadol, who in general cannot become Tami Meis, that we're making an exception for Meis Mitzvah? The Tanabanan. The Pasuk says, and this is the Pasuk in its entirety, it says, V'al kol nafshos meis lo yavo, l'imo l'aviv l'imo lo yitama. So what do we learn out from here? Al kol nafshos meis lo yavo, that a person should not become tameh. So b'makas madaber ibra chaykim. Ever we're talking about strangers, that you can't just go to some stranger's funeral. So kabel chayimru. We know that a regular Kohen, even though he could become tummy to one of his Zayin Kroivim, he is not allowed to become tummy to someone who is a distant person. So a Kohen Gadol she'enai matam lekroivim enu din she'ena matam l'rechaikim. What is it talking about? Obviously, if he's not even allowed to become tummy for his own relatives, so of course he can't become tummy for rechaikim. Elo b'kroivim mikasam adaber. The pasuk is obviously talking about the Kohen Gadol's close relatives. So aviv hu de'enu matama, and it's saying that who can you, the Kohen Gadol, not become tamei to? Your father. Hamatami hu l'meis mitzvah. However, you are allowed to become tamei to a meis mitzvah. Okay, and this brace is going to continue, so we're actually going to stop there. Let's possibly see another question or two. Question 10. Mashuach Milchama v'Sagan Eiminayu Adif. So, when it comes to matters of life and death, so the Mashuach Milchama is more important. However, when it comes to becoming tamei for someone a meis mitzvah, so the Sagan is more important and therefore the Mashuach Milchama should become tamei, because even though he's important on the battlefield, however, the Sagan needs to be ready in case the regular Kohen Gadol becomes tamei. We don't want the Sagan to become tamei. And therefore, for that reason, we say let the Mashuach Milchama become tamei instead. Question 20, TA 22. Mashuach Milchama, the Sagan Haiminau Adaf L'in Lachyoso. So we said that is the Mashuach Milchama. L'inin L'tamei L'meis mitzvah. In that situation, the Sagan is more important because he needs to be fit for the avoda. Ad kan.